Hello, welcome to Let's Talk About It with Taylor Nolan. I am your host, and today I have a very good friend on the pod. Very excited to have her. Also, my first episode recording with FaceTime, so this will be interesting. But you guys recognize her from my season of The Bachelor, so welcome, Vanessa, to the show.
Hi, my love. You know what? We've been planning to do a podcast together for a while, but we haven't had the same schedule. So I'm glad this lined up, especially around what's been going on in your life and in my life and things that we could relate to. So I'm glad that we're doing this. And we were talking about this the other day. It's all about timing, and it didn't work out the other time. So it worked out for us to talk about all this stuff today. all the good.
Yep. Today we're going to discuss breakups and public breakups and all that really fun stuff. So yeah, timing is so important. Timing can be a total bitch sometimes, but timing,
are you allowed saying bitch on this?
I do.
Oh, okay. I mean, on my podcast, we get bleeped out if we do. So this is exciting.
I mean, for me, it's like we're going to be talking about all the things and we're going to allow ourselves to feel all the things. So, if that's how we're feeling, if we're feeling like timing's a bitch, then it's a bitch. And sometimes you just got to be real with it like that. So that's how we roll on. Let's talk about it.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about timing, Taylor.
Yeah, timing is a really hard thing. And I don't think you haven't met Kit yet, my co-host, but I'm sad he couldn't be on this episode. He's in LA right now. But one thing we talk about all the time is flowing with life and just letting things flow and
happen naturally and organic. I have a hard time, and I admit that I have a hard time allowing things to happen the way that they should, just because I guess I'm set in my ways, and you have certain expectations of things, and you are everyone has their own personality. And throughout the years, I've learned to try to let go of things in order for things to happen organically. And I feel like I'm getting a lot better at that. And it also helps when you are aware of the things that you want to change. And have a positive change in your life. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to work on. Just all right, let's go with the flow of things, don't ask too many questions, Vanessa. Just do it.
Well, do it. I think one of the things that we often search for, specifically in dating, is answers and commitment and really concrete things to help us feel safe with being vulnerable. And when timing is so uncertain and we want things to be the way that we want them to be, we don't actually allow them to flow naturally. And that causes a lot of anxiety, and that can be really difficult to sit with, and it's uncomfortable. And I know I've definitely seen that in you with trying to just relax and let things flow how they're gonna, and not try to push things to be a certain way. And I mean, I think that's partially why we get along so well and kind of clicks, because I felt like I saw a lot of myself in you. And that's one thing, too, that I struggle with, of just letting things be. And I think, one thing I've reflected on a lot over the last year is my only child syndrome, and how I've always had things done the way that I want them done. And, my way is the right way. Why would it not be? And really challenging a lot of those thoughts. And I think going along with timing is sometimes you don't have control of that. And I don't know for you, but for me, going on the show itself was a practice in letting go of control. That sucks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're basically letting go of, first of all, you're letting go of all the emotional support and your social support system in the hands of basically producers. You're giving away your phone. You have no TV. You don't have anything to communicate with the outside world. And during our season, the elections were going on, and we didn't know what was going on. And so, it was interesting to see and be able, I guess, when it comes to letting go of the idea of how you want certain things to be, it comes down to trust too, to trust that things will happen the way that it's not saying oh, let me just go with the flow and see where things go. No, it's trusting the idea that it will get to that place when it should.
Yeah, I think it's having faith in the process of things. And for me, I'm a very spiritual person. I think everything's connected. And so to me, it's things will happen, and you have to have faith in that process, that I always believe where we are is exactly where we're supposed to be at this time. even if it sucks and even if we're like, I don't want to be here, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
That like, nope, this is where you're at right now. And then tomorrow you'll be in a different place.
Speaking of breakups, and I'm going to connect this back to breakups. I remember when I got selected to be on the show. And I thought, anyway, so I got selected to be on the show. And I remember looking back and thinking, I am so thankful for every breakup, every person that ripped my heart open, every experience that I went through has shaped me to become the person I am today in order to be in the place that I am today. Yeah. And I was so thankful for all that. But when you're going through that breakup,
it does not feel like that.
It doesn't. It feels like the world is over. The universe is against you. You're never going to find that love again. Nothing ever makes sense. And it can be such a dark and scary place. Yeah. And I remember where you can't see me, guys, people who are listening to the podcast, but Tay, I'm showing you where I'm sitting right now after my first biggest heartbreak with the love of my life. I sat on these steps for just hours contemplating like, wow, why you go through those emotions, right? Like you start blaming him and then you start blaming yourself and then you start like trying to get them back. And I remember just thinking like, I can't wait to wake up and not feel this pain anymore. And that day does come. And that's what I want to tell listeners who are maybe going through a breakup or have gone through a breakup. That day does come. And I always tell myself, like, I am the queen of getting my heart broken. Everyone thinks like, oh my God, there's a lineup of guys waiting for you. Yes.
Not
but
really how it works after the show either.
No. And it's like, I really put myself out there when I'm dating someone. And so I go in with all my heart. And so when my heart breaks, it shatters into pieces. And I keep telling myself, like, Vanessa, you've gone through these heartbreaks. You know what the process is like. And everyone is different. We all have a different way of dealing with breakups and the healing process of things. And I think there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the hardest parts, though. You know, there is no right or wrong way, but there is definitely like, I don't know if you've heard of conscious uncoupling.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is...
I think you were telling me about this.
Yeah, so that's basically like my model of how I like to go through my breakups. I like to do it with love, with appreciation, with, really just a sense of gratitude for what the relationship was and the things that it has taught both of us, but also leaving it with respect that like, this isn't the place for us. You're still someone that, I hold very dear to my heart and that I'll always think of in a fond way because, I had these experiences with you and I felt this love with you. And knowing, that we'll always be there to support each other no matter what. And that's always my hope for breakups. And that's always kind of the way I like to go about it. I'm good friends with several of my exes. Have heard from several of them this week, just lending their support, for dealing with my breakup now with Derek. And, it is hard when both parties aren't in that same place to consciously uncouple in a loving way. And I know that for a few listeners who have wrote in and DM'd me as well and asking kind of these questions of like, how do you deal with breakups and how do you deal with the heartbreak? And I think it does go back to a lot of that control of like giving each other the space to process it, how you're both going to process it.
But I think it's hard. I mean, I think it's easier when you're the person that's breaking up with the other person as opposed to getting broken up with, right?
Absolutely.
Naturally, when someone is breaking up with you, then that person has had time to process, okay, do I want to be with this person? Do I not? They've calculated all the steps, all the emotions, all that, and they've gone through it while being with you. So it's not like they're pulling away, but they're pulling away with, love and admiration usually for that person because they're making that ultimate decision. But when it's the other way around, I've been on the other side. It is not fun.
Yeah. And I think too, even when it's mutual, sometimes it still is difficult to get to that place because there are so many like waves of emotion and I mean, breakups happen in all kinds of ways. Sometimes one person tries to break up with the other person, but then you stay in the relationship and then it switches and then, it's just kind of this roller coaster back and forth. And I think that the process comes in so many waves and like you really have to practice being kind to yourself throughout it. Cause like you said, I don't know if you can see Vanessa, but Lily is up on my lap now.
Well, I'm in like a bra and I'm like not even properly dressed for this, but good thing it's not on camera.
No, but I kind of wish it was, because I wish people could see Lily all the time.
And that's having a pet is very therapeutic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. She's my
and
girlfriend.
And they're your babies. Well, Lily's your baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They are. Self-care and breakups. That's something we should discuss.
Self-care and breakups. Okay.
What are your thoughts on that? What's your self-care through breakups?
My self-care, my version of dealing with a breakup,
I'm sure it's different in each situation.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I'm just trying to think of like, let's say my last breakup. It was obviously very different. It was in the public eye, but
Which is a whole other thing we'll get to.
It's a whole other thing. But I have to say, Nick and I gave each other the respect that we both deserved after the breakup. And that's one thing that, of course, things happen in relationships that aren't necessarily put out there in the public. And it's important to have that mutual respect for one another to keep it private, and of course, like we're all dealing with our things that they say there's a truth, there's his side and her side. So there's always three sides to a story. So of course, like you're obviously going into a breakup thinking like, oh my God, why? And trying to figure things out. And the other person is trying to figure their end out too. But at the end of the day, for me, it's just really feeling out my emotions. And I'm an emotional person. I'm a very empathetic person. So I don't like to shy away from what I'm feeling. If I'm sad, I will cry it out.
Feel the feelings.
Yeah. You always, feel the feelings.
And I hate the don't cry. Like don't give that to him. Like, don't give that to her. Like, no, you're human. No. That's okay that you got a lot to process. It's overwhelming. You miss the person. You wish things could have been different. Like, feel it through. Like, give yourself, typically throughout my breakups, I mean, they're all different, but, like you said, I try to give myself the space to feel that. Like, I'll sit in my room and I'll just bawl my eyes out, and then I'll gather myself. Yeah. Okay, time to move on for the day. Yeah. And sometimes there are days where it's like, nope, nothing's getting done. Nothing's getting done.
And that's fine. And that's okay. And that's okay. But I remember going through my breakup and thinking like, oh my God, this is I was getting panic attacks. And even just as it was a really hard thing. Because when I let go with all of me.
Yeah.
And,
see, and I struggle with that. I don't let go all the way.
Yeah.
Because I want that conscious uncoupling of no, we still have a positive.
Well, I'm not saying I let go in a negative way. I just let go and I need my space. Looking back, I've had dinner with 3 of my exes in the past 2 weeks just because we're all still friends and we still respect each other, and I support them, and they're doing so many great things in their lives. And of course, it takes a while to get to that place. It's not like I'm friends, directly off the bat.
And in the midst of the breakup, it's not going to feel like that's always possible.
No. But I do like getting to that point where, if I see someone I dated in the streets, I want to run up to them and hug them and say how are you? How are you doing? After a week of breaking up, no, I don't want to see you in the streets. I want my space.
Don't want to see you in the streets. Don't want to see you in the sheets.
No,
either.
Definitely not in the sheets. Definitely not. And that's one thing. I've never gone back to an ex and slept with them after a breakup.
Yeah, actually, neither have I. Even my one ex from undergrad, we dated for 3-ish years, lived together. And even after I moved back to Seattle and had some classes still that I was taking, we were in the same program together. So flew back to Baltimore to take a course and to take an exam another time too. And I stayed with him in his place, and we slept in the same bed, and nothing even remotely romantic or physical even happened. But it was just okay, he has the cereals I like, he's got the soap I like because he knows that. And we're just good friends. And I think that's a really hard concept for people to wrap their heads around sometimes. But, when you can really let go of that part of the relationship and say, okay, we're closing a chapter on this part because this part did not serve us well. However, I still see your value. I still have love for you. I still respect you, and I enjoy your company, and that's why I think we're able to get to that point. And, you know, at the beginning with him, that breakup was a bit messy. And there was probably like about a month or two where we just like did not speak at all. But then,
and that's fine. And that's what you needed.
Mm-hmm. But then, you know, a few months later, it's like, yeah, I can just go stay at his place and it's not even remotely awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to get to, it also depends. Everyone is different. Some people want to remain friends off the bat. Some people need years. Some people just don't. They want to block them from their lives, literally and figuratively, off of Instagram, off of Facebook, and all that stuff. And I'm not saying I'm against that. I'm someone, and I think I spoke about this on my podcast too. I'm like, I have no shame if someone breaks up with me or hurts me. Humans have a tendency to sometimes get into a repetitive negative behavior and pattern where you can like scroll up and start reading messages from the person that you dated. And for me, I want to be able to avoid that. So I will delete the entire thread of conversation. I will unfollow them on Facebook or Instagram. I won't block anyone, but I don't want to allow myself to like dwell in that and soak in my pain and my misery and all that for too long. Yeah. You know? So that's like if anyone is listening to this and they want to know like, okay, what's a good first step to letting go? For me, that always helps. And my friends always make fun of me. They're like, oh my God, Vanessa, did you delete his number? And I'm like, yep.
See, for me, that's the like, first step. I've never done that. For me, that would be so like disconnecting for me. Like I like to still feel connected to that person in some shape or form. And one thing, like you said, you know, scrolling up and like looking at the old messages and all of that, like, I mean, I will do that and I will look back at positive times. And to me, that's part of like the conscious uncoupling of acknowledging the positives in the relationship, which is a really hard place to be in when you know that you're separating from it. And maybe that's like, you know, just really sulking in it. I don't know that there could be layers to it, but I know for me in my process, it feels just really like negative and hurtful to only focus on the negative in the relationship as you're parting from it. And so I will look back at those positive times and be like, you know, yeah, I really do have a lot of love for you. And you know, I'm sad that it couldn't work out. I'm sad that we weren't able to move things in a more positive direction with each other. However, potentially down the road, maybe one day, things could be different. But regardless, I would love to still have you be someone positive in my life. Yeah, but I hope it didn't come off that I'm just thinking of the negative things in a breakup.
Not. Yeah, I just, and of course, like, you know, I went out for dinner last week with an ex and I was like sad that I couldn't go back to the messages. Yeah. I'm like, that was my process. Cause like, remember when we did this? And I'm like, oh my God, no, I deleted everything. But it was just so sweet. Like, and I'm very thankful. I have really good relationships with people I dated and they're just like really, and it got to that point after a while. In the midst of it, it's like,
in the midst of it, I think you need some of that, like the boundaries. Boundaries.
Yeah. So another, I guess, tip for anyone listening. I'm like I'm doing my foam roller right now. I'm cracking my back.
I need to do one of those, actually.
It's so good. It's so good to like release the tension in your back.
I just got a really, really cute robe from ModCloth. It's like cats and it says meow all over it. So totally me. But that's part of why I love ModCloth because it's such like a personal experience. There's literally something for everything on there. You can literally get everything from travel-inspired prints to breezy sundresses, plus denim, and a lot more denim right now. They also have such a large variety of sizes, like going all the way from like extra, extra small to like 4X. I always love looking at their site, looking at like they've like home good type stuff and clothes and just all kinds of really, really cute things that I love shopping for. And who doesn't love like a good revamp of your wardrobe post-breakup? You guys can get 25% off your purchase of $100 or more. Go to modcloth.com and enter Taylor at checkout for 15% off. But hurry because this offer expires on October 10th, 2018. To get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. Go to modcloth.com and enter code Taylor at checkout. But hurry, this offer expires on October 10th, 2018.
Another tip I would suggest is, well, Taylor, maybe you can help me with like the terminology. There's like 5 emotions that that we go through after a breakup.
Grief and loss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with grief. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So one of them, can you highlight them for me? Or
anger,
I know there's like
anger, sadness, acceptance, and they can come in like all different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not just like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the process you go through. They can be all over the place. Acceptance, anger, sadness.
And there's one where you like try to get them back or something, like bargaining.
Yes, bargaining.
Mm-hmm. So
and there's
bargaining,
one more I can't remember.
Yeah. Bargaining is a dangerous spot to be in, because they're like trying. And I always say this, whoever like friends that ask me like, hey, do you think I should send this text message out? My first response is, why are you sending it out? If it's for a response, no. If you're trying to get a reaction out of him, no. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to just like, let something out and not have a reaction, sure. But that's the one reason why for me, it's like, let me just like get the thread out, delete the thread and just not have their number in my phone. Mm-hmm. So I don't, when I'm sad and I get to that point where I'm like, oh my God, I really miss them. Like, I want to see what they're doing. Yeah. The temptation of like trying to win them back, and it's, I've been there. I admit it. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's like the hard part of loss is like not accepting that part yet. And I know I want to kind of get into a little bit about like the differences with our breakups being public and how that process has been different than our previous relationships. And one thing for me, we were split up before it went public, obviously. And there was a process that happened then, but then it's kind of like almost reliving this whole other process through the public, and that just kind of, it's a whole other layer of a breakup that clearly I've never experienced before, and is really, really difficult. Yeah. I'm a little too close to it still to like really feel comfortable sharing about it, but that's why I love that I have you on here as a good friend, as someone who's like already kind of been through some of this.
Yeah. Obviously on many layers, I could relate to having a public breakup and having to deal with, just people making comments or like there being
the damn comments.
The comments. It's like
a black hole.
It's and it's scary because like I said, same thing like breaking up with someone, you go in that dark hole and you start reading messages, and it's not a fun place to be. So anyone listening that feels like, let me write a comment. Hey, it's a free world. You guys are free to write whatever you want to write.
Freedom of speech, however.
Freedom of speech. But it does. And listen, like even like after our season and stuff, I was like, watching like, people on other seasons and people asking me to comment. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable commenting on it because like, it's just, So yeah, like obviously the public breakup is not easy. And on my end, we went through, like Nick and I tried everything to make it work, like till the last minute of our breakup, the last minute of our relationship. Until we decided like, look, like we love each other. And I remember like we laughed once we were like writing our statement and sending it off to the media, and we just like laughed and we were relieved that we made a decision we were both comfortable with after having tried so hard to make it work.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't see. They see like, they don't see the struggles that people have in relationships. Guys, everyone has problems in relationships, especially in the public eye. It's probably even worse.
Like, and even the ones that you see on the show are not even the full gamut of the actual issues that happen. I mean, when they showed our argument in Paradise, it was not even close to what was actually happening, And I think like even when people make comments, I think it's easy for you to think that the relationship, and like I know I tried with this relationship to be as authentic as possible because I didn't want people to romanticize or idealize the relationship or anything like that. Wanted to keep it, as real as possible, but also respecting the boundaries and respecting our privacy. But even with that, there is such this layer of like either just hating the relationship altogether or of like, it's the best thing ever and they're so perfect and all this stuff. And it's like, well, remember that, you don't get to see what happens behind closed doors. Like even, at least for me, I did go and read comments and I shouldn't have. And a lot of it was positive. A lot of it was like just people being very sad about the breakup. And even that, like it's a supportive comment, but even in the midst of processing it all, that still is like hurtful to hear because it's like reliving that loss and it's like reliving like, again, not that it's not authentic what we put out there, but it's not everything. And so it's almost like you're grieving the loss of this image of the relationship of what like people think it is and what you would hope it would be, but that and then it's like grieving the reality of the relationship and how there are parts of the reality in the image. But it's like, it's a total mind fuck. And it's a lot to process, like the loss in different layers. I don't know if you experience that, but that's kind of what I'm going through.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just grieving the loss. I was in love with him, and it was, for me, it was grieving the loss of something that I really believed in, and having to accept that we were better off apart was heartbreaking. And heartbreaking also because like we were on good terms, and it's like, oh well, we're on good terms, why don't we try
again? Yep.
Yeah, so I think that was hard. But yeah, I mean, any breakup, especially like, being in the public eye, it's very different. And I'm like, who was it that broke up? And I was like, what? They broke up? I can't believe someone ended their marriage. And I was like freaking out.
Channing and Jenna?
Maybe, yeah. It was like a few people. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, they seem like the perfect couple, but everyone has a story.
Yeah. Yep.
Everyone has a story that they have the right to keep private.
But some people would say when you go on a reality TV show on national television, you don't get to not deal with that. That you ask
on
for
a certain
it
level. I mean, I understand that argument, but to a certain point too, And I remember getting off the show. You're like, or when you got off of Paradise, you're like, I don't remember the sentence you said, but it just made so much sense and it resonated with me. Like we were living in like not a fake world, but like an alternate universe. Yeah.
But this is our relationship in like this alternate universe, and now we're trying to make our relationship in reality.
Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard because people who watch the show go from seeing like it being perfect and like all these cool dates and whatever, to like, okay, and it's true. Like it should naturally flow. Like there should be no problems. What do you mean? But then it's like, no, there's months of like where, it's not aired, or you're like hanging out and it's not being filmed, or you don't know what's going on, or the distance, or there's just a bunch of things that could happen. Just like in regular relationships, there's always, there's love there. It's just, it's sad. Breakups are a bitch. Let's bring that word back. Breakups are a bitch. Okay.
Breakups are total bitches.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. I think, I'm curious for you how you go forward then, like what your process has been post breakup. It's been over a year now.
No, it's going to be a year in August.
A year in August. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what my process was post breakup?
Yeah. Like what it's kind of been this time around. You guys left it with like appreciation and on good terms and all of that, and like how you, I guess, emotionally wrap your head around all of that and like go forward.
Yeah, well, obviously, like when it happened, for me, the most important thing was surrounding myself by friends and family. So I flew back the day we released the article. I flew back to Montreal to stay with friends and family for a month, and I just needed time to just be in my pajamas and grieve the loss. And, we were still in contact with each other. So that was nice whenever I was like really at a low, or if he was at, it was nice to just have that communication, but still knowing that we made the right choice. And then naturally, like, you just wake up and you're like, okay, I feel lighter today. And you start feeling better. And I say it's kind of like the flu. I keep saying this. It might be a weird analogy, but when the flu hits you, you feel like crap.
Yeah.
And you feel like you can't get out of bed and like, holy shit, like it's just brutal. And then as the week goes on, you start feeling better out of nowhere. Like, oh, I know, I'm waking up and I'm feeling better. Yeah. Same thing like a breakup. It's like, boom, it hits you like a ton of bricks. And then eventually it starts to feel better. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was just doing things that made me happy and, surrounding myself with supportive friends and family. And I took a really long time to go on a date, like a really long time, just because I don't believe in rebounds necessarily, just because
you're also like, once you're with someone, you're like full in, like you don't mess around.
Yeah. So I guess that's why for me, it's like, I don't know how to deal with a rebound because I want to like the person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, rebounds, some people say it's great to have a rebound, and yeah,
it works for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do to help the process. But it's been, it's been nice. I'm single. I'm not dating anyone. And like not anywhere near like talking to anyone right now. I'm just having a really good time focusing on myself. And I feel like after every major breakup, it's important to rediscover yourself again and just learn how to be happy by yourself and with your own company.
Especially after a public breakup, especially one that formed on a TV show, because your life changes a lot.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with you. I think taking that time to like just be with yourself and rediscover and explore, all the ways that you've changed throughout the relationship and the things that you've learned from the relationship, and taking time to really reflect on those and let those sit in before really getting into something else can be, I think, a really positive thing to do for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you doing, my love?
I am hanging on in there.
Yeah.
Hanging in there.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I think, we both definitely stand by our decision, and it still is a hard decision. And I think, we definitely put in all the effort that we could into the relationship. And, it's sad and unfortunate that things weren't different. But I know, at least for me, feeling confident in the decision is just really knowing that, like, we tried absolutely everything we could. That I put everything I could into the relationship to a point where I felt like I was starting to lose myself in it almost. And that was kind of like a sign of like, we can't keep doing this kind of thing. And, I think we definitely have discussed like wanting to keep specifics of why and all that stuff private, and having that boundary for ourselves, because sometimes it just gets too complicated when you have too many voices and too many opinions coming at you, without kind of the whole picture. But, I think for both of us, we've discussed it, and, it definitely kind of feels a bit relieving, and I think we're both rediscovering ourselves in a different way now. And for me, being in Seattle with friends and family, like, so important, being with my Lily girl, and
your little pussycat.
Yeah, she's my favorite. And now she's walking over and she's like, "You talking about me?"
Yeah, Lily.
But yeah, I mean, this, like, starting a different chapter of your life, I think, can be really, really scary, but it's also really empowering. I mean, I have never lived somewhere and it's just been mine. And this is the first time. Yeah.
Girl, me too. Yes. I'm so excited. I got my bed today and I'm like, oh my God, it's my bed. Like, my room. I get to decorate the house the way I want to decorate it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, lived with family, then lived in the dorms, and then lived with boyfriends.
Exes,
and I'm like, this is the first place that is 100% all me, found it all on my own, didn't consider anyone else in this, and like furnishing it all myself.
So good.
And it's just all me. And I think it does allow for a different kind of like feeling grounded and feeling centered and feeling empowered through the breakup. And just like, you know, it's just me and Lil. And it doesn't even feel like a sad thing. It's like, oh, it's just me and my cat. It's like, it's me and my cat.
Yeah. Well, it's also because you feel comfortable in the decision that you made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's easy. Like, this is I think, really important piece of breakups that we've somewhat touched on, but I want to really emphasize here that, like, there's a whole process of doubt. Even if you logically know it's the best decision. Like,
oh my God.
There was so much for me of like, you know, just second guessing and doubting things and being like, I don't know, is this the right decision? Like, are we going to regret this? And I think you really just have to stick with your gut on these kinds of decisions and letting those waves kind of come and go. And Kit and I have talked about Untethered Soul on here a lot. It's an amazing book.
It is.
And one of the things is like remembering that you're the observer of your thoughts and feelings, that you are not your thoughts and feelings. And
that you're the observer of your thoughts and feelings, and you are not your thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
Okay.
And so with that, you let that go. So like, if you start feeling like, oh, I need to text him, like, and granted, I'm going to preface this with like, this is hard as shit to do. This is very, very hard. And it takes a lot of self-control and it takes a lot of practice. And it's okay if you don't get it right the first time or every time. But when those thoughts come up of like, oh, I miss him, I want to text him, like, let that feeling flow. Let it ride out, because
don't be impulsive.
Yes, it will go away. And just
I needed to learn the hard way. Yep.
Mm-hmm, just say to yourself, I recognize that I miss him right now. I recognize that I want to reach out.
So being aware of aware of your emotions and where they're coming from.
Yeah. Because if you just let that feeling ride out and you just say, okay, yeah, I see that that's what you're feeling. I'm aware that like, that's how I'm feeling right now. But also remembering that like, give that, 5 minutes, sit on that for 10, maybe 15, and then something else will come up, and it all comes in waves, especially in the midst of the breakup. Like there are going to be so many things that come at you where you're doubting things and you're second guessing. But once you've already came to that decision, I think it's important to stick by it, because you have to remember that all those other things really are just waves of emotion.
Yeah. Well, that's all the leftover, like, it's one of those stages too. Like and that's why I say, when you're trying to bargain or trying to get a response out of someone, even if you miss them, and my friends always say, like, message me, like, text me in case like there's something that you want to talk about, or, we'll talk about it with your friends, instead of like getting back into that, vicious cycle of like, you've gone, it's kind of like a diet, you've worked so hard to get to the place that you've gone. And like, you're like eating well and you're working out. So what's the point of like taking 2 steps back? And it's the same thing too. So.
And diets are designed to fail. So like, it's more of like a lifestyle change. And that's how I think you get actual results. And that's how you like find actual connection within yourself, Yeah. There you are. This is my first time doing a FaceTime pod recording.
Oh, is it?
And yeah.
How do you usually do it?
Usually it's just audio.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, look at us. We get to speak and look at each other. Like
propped up here, and my phone's falling all over the place, but that's okay. It's nice to be able to see your face.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see the energy and try to feel it. So do you
I see you. I'm just gonna hold it. I don't know why I'm not just holding it.
Yeah, I'm holding my phone.
Hold it.
So you don't see me like, oh no, you see my. It's just an old.
It's a bralette.
It's a bralette. It's just an old one though. But it does. It's padded. It's nice.
Well, we are going to take like a screenshot of our FaceTime. So if you want to put something different on. You can,
because people are going to be like, "What bra?" Maybe I'll wear my robe. But do you feel better speaking about the process of breakups and having?
I do, and it's definitely still soon. And, obviously I have more in-depth conversations with friends and family that aren't necessarily public, but I did want to address it because you guys are asking questions, and I don't want to avoid the elephant in the room necessarily, but also like hopefully respect my boundaries and my private process. But I think there is a way that we can talk about these things, even though they're uncomfortable. And for me, I'm such a talker. So like talking with friends, even just journaling, like all of that helps with the process so much, because when you just sit, sometimes you can start ruminating on things and start the doubting and start the bargaining. And like, sometimes you need people in your life to just like check you on that shit.
Yeah. So I'm going to like reverse this, and I'm going to pretend to be a therapist right now. So what do you feel you need to work on? Having gone through this breakup, it's a very new breakup. What do you feel like you need to work on in order to move past this relationship and to be in a happy place?
A lot.
Do therapists ask that stuff?
Sure. That's a wonderful question.
Okay.
It's a wonderful question. I think there's a lot of things that the relationship has taught me. And I think, I'll open up and share more of those as I reflect on them. And without touching on too much detail of things, I definitely feel like I need, and this also kind of comes from the show, honestly, like moving past the relationship. Part of that is moving past the show.
Yeah.
And how that's impacted me. The show really made me feel like I didn't have a voice, and like I was this really small person. And I feel like in some ways I also showed up that way in the relationship, where I didn't feel like I spoke up for myself, or, I didn't stand up for where I was at. And I think working on my only child syndrome, like wanting things done the way that I want them done. And I reflect on how that has showed up in our relationship. However, I struggle to see that sometimes. But I know, we had a conversation of like what our kind of red flags were with each other were, things that we wanted each other to work on and focus on. And that was one of them from him. And so that's something I know I'm working on. And again, like in different relationships, it works differently. Like in the past, like that might not have been an issue, but in this relationship, it could have been an issue. And so trying to figure out like what it was about the dynamics of the two of us that, allowed that part to be an issue. I think the biggest thing is allowing space to grieve it. Yeah. Because it's there's levels of grief, not just the private stuff, but the dealing with the public part of it as well. And I like to think I have thick skin, but you go on a reality TV show and
it's same. Yeah, it's not easy. But I think at the same time, it's allowed me to just be like, you know what? This is me. This is who I am. I'm not. It's, at the beginning, it was hard to have to deal with all that. Of course, like there's like maybe a million nice comments, and that one mean comment will stick by you. And you're like, oh my God, why am I allowing it to affect my day or affect my mood? And it's like, we're human. So things hurt us. And,
I think thinking about your question too. I think, earlier I mentioned like your gut. And I think that's one thing, especially from the show the first time around and Paradise and the relationship as a whole. Like I silenced my gut, and like I didn't speak up for myself when I wanted to. I didn't feel like I had the strength or like the power to like own my shit and like speak my truth. And again, there's so many layers to that are like, it's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack and explain if someone didn't go through that same process. And even if like we were on the same TV show, we had different experiences, but on some level we can still understand the struggles and what we've both gone through, you know?
And you know more of like the ins and out and details of like the relationship and the dynamics of that. And I think like, just trusting your gut on things, like allowing, and I think like the intuition there too, like that's something I'm working on of like just letting things be and listening to yourself.
Yeah. And listen, going into some relationships, my gut was telling me like, no. But I'm like, oh, like, let me just go against what my gut was telling me.
Yeah,
because
right? Like, why do we do that?
Yeah, I don't know why we do. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with every relationship I've been in. And, you know, every heartbreak that I've had, it's taught me so many lessons. And I've become this person. And I keep saying this, like between the age of like 25 to now almost 31, I feel like I've lived 9 different lives. And
just in the last like 2 years, I feel like I've lived
2 years.
So many.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And one thing that I'm trying to get better at is if I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. Like it's not a fun day for me or for anyone around me. So I'm trying to get better at being like, okay, compartmentalize things and put my emotions in different boxes and, you know, check, you know, figure out how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way and not let it affect the rest of my day. Because then it's like one whole freaking day ruined because of, you know, the way I'm feeling or something that happened or something that I read or whatever.
I want to ask you the same question that you asked me. What are things that you feel like you've taken away from your past relationship with Nick that you've like reflected on over the last almost year?
I think one, learning how to be less impulsive with things. So whether that's in relationships or like, I'm a very patient person with a lot of things, but I don't know, it's weird when it comes to like making decisions that I know is making me uncomfortable. I want to make a decision quick so I can let go of that.
Because you want to get out of that discomfort.
Yeah, exactly. So like that.
Got to lean into that.
Yeah, exactly. So I know I really want to work on that. I want to work also on focusing more on the positive things in a relationship instead of nitpicking at things that, you know, may not be going right in a relationship. And then it just becomes like it becomes a very negative space in between the both parties.
I agree.
So that's something else that I'm trying to work on. But yeah, it's mostly like the unknown. I'm someone who likes having control in terms of knowing where life is taking me. I wake up I have an agenda, you know, I write everything down.
Oh, I know, girl. I know.
So I went to therapy after the breakup, and that was like one of the things too. She's like, you got to just learn how to have room for areas of gray. Life is not black and white.
Yep.
And I'm really trying hard to get better at that.
Yeah, I know. I definitely see that with you, even in, you know, in the dating world now of like wanting things to be very black or white. And I'm like, Vanessa, it's not that simple. You got to allow for some gray area.
So anyone listening, I was with Taylor once and I was like, I got to write this thing to this person. And she's like, no, don't write it. And I'm like, I'm writing it. I'm sending it. And it didn't turn out well. So don't be impulsive.
But with that, I think, again, that comes kind of full circle here. It's what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode about letting things flow and like understanding that we're not going to know everything and that we're not going to have a clear direction and we might not be 100% confident in a decision. Maybe we're like 80 or 90% confident, but of like being okay with where things are going to go. And like, I know, I mean, I think I feel comfortable sharing this. You know, there were several times where we thought the relationship was going to end and, you know, he was definitely, you know, kind of ready and I wasn't necessarily ready and I would fight it and I would try to say, you know, we can work on this and we can work on this. And, at a certain point, then it's like, this is coming right now. I'm in it. I need to let it flow. I need to go with it. This is where it's going. I need to let it go there. And even with that, I think comes a certain level of consent. And that again goes to like what I'm working on with control, how we've talked about. And like we did an episode on consent a few episodes ago, and consent expands just from the sexuality piece. I mean, from someone saying, you know, I don't want you to call me, to respecting that boundary. That's a consent. To saying, I don't want to come visit, you know, that's a consent. That's saying, okay, you don't want to come. And really respecting that person's, that's where they're at, and letting that just be, even if you don't want it to be that way, even if you think it should be a different way, you know, letting go of that control over what and how someone else is going to deal with a breakup or with a relationship or with whatever. You know, you only have control over how you respond and what you say. And I think it's really important to take that time, how we've said, to reflect on the pieces that you brought to the relationship, and you can only hope that your partner's doing the same. Yeah. Yeah. And another book that I absolutely love, I'm sure you've read this, The Four Agreements. And the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, which is hard sometimes to not do, and to always do your best. So that's, it's a great book. And it's not a big book to read anyway. It's, a few hundred pages, like 136 pages or something. I love this book. Yeah. No, it's a good one. Well, I'm so glad we did this. What do you need? I was going to say, well, I think I need some self-care time now to process the other pieces of this as we've kind of opened the box a little bit on reflecting on it. You know what? Some people take baths. I'm not a big bath person. I'd rather go outside and like or I like window shopping, being in a mall and being surrounded by people and just being in my own space, but knowing that there's people around me. That's my kind of like, it's a weird thing, but that's like one thing that I like to do when I know I'm getting anxious about something, or I need to just be out and not be thinking. Yeah. Or overthinking. Ugh, I'm an overthinker. Same. Get so in my head. That's where I'm like, okay, I need to talk about it. But yeah, I think even, you know, sometimes that's hard. Like there's so many other things I have to do today. I have to go, you know, I'm recording with Olivia literally like 30 minutes after this to be on her pod, and probably talking about breakup stuff again. So, and then other things like just logistical work things I need to get done throughout the day, and taking the time and saying to yourself, you know, you need to give yourself like 15 minutes to like. Yeah. Listen, I did a story a couple days ago about having a little bit of anxiety and just not knowing where it was coming from and not being able to control it. And I took like a couple of days to myself, and I just didn't want to have to deal with the pressures of like just being in meetings and having to call people and the emails and just, there's a lot that I just didn't have, a lot of simple things I didn't have the mental capacity to do at that point. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to feel bad about having time to myself. And now I feel great because I allowed myself to just take a breath and pause. Breathing's so important. I know. I want to start meditating so badly. You should. I know. I just, now that I found a place. Do you remember when we were My phone might die, by the way. Okay, super quick. Okay. Do you remember when I was visiting you in LA and we were in the apartment, things weren't going so well, and I had to do the meditation app? Oh my God, yes! I couldn't stop laughing at first. I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. And I kept peeking and I kept looking at you, and you're like totally into it. I'm like, okay, I can be into this too. I'm like, I felt the stress in my feet, and then like we discussed it after. It was amazing. That's what app was that? That's the Headspace app. Yeah. Yeah. Highly recommend that for like meditating. Beginners or Yeah. I also have Breathe now. Okay, I haven't tried that one. It's another app, and they have like really cool soothing music for like if you want to relax, if you need to concentrate on work and stuff. It's there's so many things on your phone that you can get, so many apps. You just got to be proactive and do it. And, yeah.
that's what I'm.
You can also set alarms and reminders on your phone through the app to be like, okay, time to meditate.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to get back into that because now I'm back home and it's been hectic with like the move and everything. And now I have like my own little community. Remember when like you're in LA and you're like, I can't wait for you to have your own little community of friends. Now I'm back home and I have like, again, another community of just like an area that I've always wanted to live in. And
same.
Yeah, I know. Girl,
so many freaking parallels. This is weird.
So many parallels. And I want to start pottery classes, but I feel like my phone might die. It's at 2%. Okay. I want to start pottery classes. Yes. I want to go and meditate. You can take
your headphones out, by the way. Just to do a finish up that's not like rushed.
Okay.
You can charge it and take your headphones out.
You hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where my charger is, but I'm putting my bathrobe on. So we take this picture and I'm not half naked.
But no, I think that's amazing that you're doing the pottery class stuff. You're doing things to take care of yourself. We need to do a trip soon, both Seattle and Montreal, because summer is a good time to do both of those. So
absolutely.
We'll work it out. We'll take this selfie here and, you guys can see what we looked like in my first FaceTime recording.
Yay! And it's with me. Okay, hold on. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Did you do it or was I doing it?
I did it.
Okay, I think I did it.
Yeah, I did it. And I'll send it to you. I'll post it.
Awesome.
It was so great talking to you about this openly. Everyone listening, thank you for listening to our story.
Joining our conversations. Yeah. You have a pod that people can go listen to.
Yes. So I'm with Jared and Dean on Help I Suck at Dating. So it's all dating related topics. We have therapists and psychologists and matchmakers and psychics. We have a bunch of cool people that come in and talk to us about love and all that stuff. So it's really interesting. And usually we put like a swipe up feature on a post or a picture that we post on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's called Help I Suck at Dating with, you can find us on the iHeartMedia app.
Yeah. So check her out there for more fun dating stuff. And thank you so much for chatting with me. I love you and I miss you.
I love you. I'll call you later.
Yes. Sounds good.
This conversation ain't over.
No,
love you so much.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode today on breakups and for being supportive and, respecting privacy and boundaries with public relationships. It can be really, really difficult for the people in them. So appreciate you listening and being a part of this with all of us and me. I absolutely love reading your guys' reviews on iTunes. Really appreciate the support that you guys give there. So if you haven't yet, please head over there to leave a rating or a review and send emails with topic suggestions or questions that you have and would like answered on the show. You can send those to ask.letstalkaboutit@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram at Let's Talk About It _podcast. All right, that does it for the day. Thank you guys so much, and I look forward to talking to you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Babes and Babies, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.